I'm Andrew Edwards, and you're watching Gear Live. Over the last few years, it's undeniable that Apple's AirPods have become a cultural phenomenon. Not only are they the best-selling wireless headphones in the world, they're also the best-selling headphones in the world, period, wired or wireless. So what do you do when you want to improve upon a product that's already dominating the market? If you're Apple, you go pro. What's going on, Tech Squad? Andrew Edwards here, editor-in-chief of GearLive.com. And as I mentioned in this video, we are talking about the brand new Apple AirPods Pro. You've seen a lot of people on social media, you've seen a lot of articles, you've seen a lot of videos talking about the new AirPods Pro and how the new thing that they bring to the table is noise cancellation. But the problem with that narrative is that if that's all you know about the new AirPods Pro, then you're wrong. Now, before you get too mad and start hitting up the comments, allow me to explain. In this video, I'll share 5 of the main key differences between the new AirPods Pro and the old school AirPods, starting with the design. Now, when Apple originally developed the EarPods, which are the wired version of the original AirPods, they did a massive study of thousands of people's ears. They basically scanned people's ears, looked at the different shapes, different sizes, all the variations that you might find in an ear in order to determine the best fit if you were making a one-size-fits-all earbud. Now, obviously one size doesn't fit all. They wanted to fit the masses, but it's impossible to fit one size, especially when most people have 2 distinctly different shaped ears. You may not be able to tell that, but your 2 ears likely do not match each other 100%. Now, that did not stop the AirPods from becoming the most popular headphone in the world. However, with the AirPods Pro, Apple went back to the drawing board. They pulled out that old study and scanned thousands of more ears to determine what would be the best way to make an earbud with a silicone tip. And the end result is what we're seeing here with the AirPods Pro. Unlike the original AirPods, the AirPods Pro use silicone tips, which are almost flush, so there's nothing hard protruding into your ear. And because the tips snap on at the end with nothing inside of them, they fit better into many ear holes than conventional silicone tips. Now, using these silicone tips gives you something called passive noise cancellation, different than active noise cancellation, which we'll get to in just a couple minutes. But passive noise cancellation is basically the use of an in-ear earbud that has a silicone tip that creates a seal inside your ear from the noise of the outside environment. Now, one thing about the fit, as I said, one size doesn't fit all. And that leads me into the second point here. In the box, Apple includes 3 different sizes of silicone tip. They got a small, they got a medium, which is what is on the AirPods when you take them out of the box, and they have a large one as well. Now, I've owned other earbuds with multiple tips, and I've never changed them because I just wasn't sure which was best. But Apple has solved that with a built-in ear fit tip test. All you need to do is go into the Bluetooth settings and tap on the AirPods Pro. And in there's an ear tip fit test, which will play some music while you're wearing the AirPods Pro and let you know if you're wearing the wrong size ear tip. Now, the way that this works is pretty unique and is very Apple. One of the microphones in the AirPods Pro faces outward, so it can hear what you're hearing. It then compares what you're hearing to what the speaker driver is playing. If the levels aren't matching up, it'll recommend changing the tip. Apple's also constructed the AirPods Pro in such a way that the pressure equalizes on either side of an AirPod Pro, so using the noise cancellation feature is not uncomfortable on your ears. Okay, up next, I just mentioned passive noise cancellation. Let's talk about one of the main features of the AirPods Pro, not the only main feature, but one of the main features, active noise cancellation. The active noise cancellation on the AirPods Pro continuously adapts to the geometry of your ear and the fit of the ear tips. I mentioned that outward facing microphone that detects external sound, which the AirPods Pro then uses to counter with equal anti-noise before you hear it. Now, there's also an inward facing microphone that listens inside of your ear for unwanted sound as well. And any unwanted sound that's detected in your ear is also canceled out with anti-noise too. So this isn't noise cancellation that's just turned on or turned off. It's actively working and listening to the noise outside your ear and inside your ear. And the noise cancellation is adjusted 200 times per second based on those inputs. The end result here is being able to be in a loud environment, whether it's on an airplane, on the subway, walking around town and have the ability to use a pair of earbuds that are convenient enough to fit right in your pocket. These will fit right in that fifth pocket on your jeans, by the way, and have all other distractions melt away and disappear. But what if you don't want them to disappear? What if you want to hear the sounds around you, maybe for safety reasons, maybe you want to pay attention to an announcement, maybe you're expecting a package for someone to knock at your door or for the doorbell to ring. In those scenarios, you can use the next major feature of the AirPods Pro, transparency mode. Now, transparency mode does two things. It allows outside noises to get into your ear. So for example, an announcement on a plane, the doorbell, etc. But it also allows what you hear around you to sound natural. If you've used noise canceling headphones before, you know that when you talk to someone, even if they have a pass-through mode, things sound a little muffled. Sometimes they sound a little tinny or robotic. So what Apple's been able to do here is actually pretty incredible. When you talk and you hear the sound of your own voice, it sounds normal. And when people talk to you, it sounds normal. And when you're in transparency mode, you're still in active noise cancellation mode. So Apple's basically taking the sound around you and blending it in with your music. So it almost sounds like you're standing in a room with music playing out of a speaker while having a discussion with someone. You can hear the music perfectly. You can hear the other person perfectly. Nothing's distorted. Everything sounds great. And that's all thanks to the 10 audio cores that you find inside of the AirPod Pro. At this point, these are miniature computers that you're wearing rather than typical earbuds. The way it blends outside sound with the sound it's playing is like augmented reality for your ears. It's like you're wearing tiny HomePods and walking around with little HomePods in your ear when you wear the AirPods Pro. Now, the next major feature of the AirPods Pro, which the original AirPods didn't tout, is adaptive EQ. Now, why is adaptive EQ important? Because now Apple is touting better music fidelity, better music sound quality on a pair of AirPods. Apple says that adaptive EQ automatically tunes music to the shape of your ear for a richer, more consistent experience. That interfacing mic that I mentioned earlier hears the sounds the same way that you hear them, which lets the AirPods Pro fine-tune the audio by adjusting the mid and low frequencies, again, up to 200 times per second. Bass is handled by a custom-built, high-excursion, low-distortion speaker driver, and the amplifier works with the built-in H1 chip to control listening levels and remove background noise. The H1 chip also powers Siri on the AirPods Pro and manages the wireless connection to your device. Now, those 10 audio cores on the processor that I mentioned a minute ago is why all of this happens so quickly. When you hear about a computer that has 8 cores or a phone that has 6 cores, we all understand that this adds additional power when compared to a single core device. The AirPods Pro have 10 audio cores in them, and all 10 of these cores are working to provide the best possible sound for your specific ears when you're wearing them. All right, next up, we talked about active noise cancellation. We talked about transparency mode. You're gonna wanna switch between them from time to time. You're also gonna wanna pause your music, go forward in music, go back a track. Now with the original AirPods, you needed to physically tap on them in order to access those controls, but that wouldn't feel too good when using a pair of earbuds that have a silicone tip inside your ear canal. So instead of needing to tap, Apple has added something called the force sensor. The force sensor is located on the stem of the AirPods Pro, and you can physically see the divot for the force sensor on the outside of the stem. Now what's cool about here, again, another thing that's very Apple, these are not buttons. They don't move, they don't click, there's nothing. But when the AirPod Pro is in your ear and you squeeze it, you will hear something that sounds like a click, and that almost tricks you into believing that you are squeezing an actual button. Squeeze and hold to switch between active noise cancellation and transparency mode. Squeeze once to play or pause. Squeeze twice to go to the next track, and squeeze 3 times to go back a track. Now there is also an additional mode which is called off. So you can have active noise cancellation, you can have transparency mode, or you can just turn those modes off and just use these to just listen to music, podcasts, etc. Turning off active noise cancellation will give you an extra 30 minutes of playback time. So speaking of playback time, you have 24 hours of listening time with the charging case. You have 4.5 hours of playback time on the AirPods Pro when using active noise cancellation or transparency mode, and up to 5 hours of playback time when you're using off mode. If your AirPods Pro do die, putting them into the charger case for 5 minutes will give you 1 hour of playback time. Unlike the standard AirPods, the AirPods Pro are only available in a configuration that comes with a wireless charging case. So there is no version that has just a wired charging case only. All AirPods Pro come with a case that you can plug in and charge or put onto a wireless Qi compatible charger. Oh, and one neat little trick about wireless charging with the AirPods Pro versus the standard AirPods. With the AirPods Pro, if they're on a wireless charger, all you need to do is tap on them in order to get the status light to glow to tell you whether they've finished charging or not. Now, this definitely isn't my full review. That'll be coming later, but initial impressions after using these for a couple of days is that they are very impressive. These are fantastic. I've carried around the original AirPods in my pocket since the day that they launched. They're the most convenient pair of headphones. They're always on me, they're always in my pocket, but I'm someone who didn't find the original AirPods to be the most comfortable pair of earbuds I've ever used. They were fine, but after a couple of hours, my ears would certainly feel a little fatigued, a little achy from wearing them, and I'd have to take them off and take a break. Additionally, I travel a lot, and on airplanes, I'd have to crank up the volume a little bit and eventually realize I was listening at higher volumes than I should have just to compensate for the noise around me, and that when traveling in loud environments, I should probably use a different pair of headphones and potentially damage my ears. So I had high hopes for the AirPods Pro, and Apple absolutely delivered. The noise cancellation I find to be better than my Bose QC30s. They are way more comfortable than the original AirPods, at least in my ears. Transparency mode sounds great, and the ear tip fit test was able to help me dial in which tips I should be using for my particular ears. Now, if you want to pick up the AirPods Pro, they do cost $249. They are available now from Apple. You can find them at your local Apple store or order them online. But needless to say, the AirPods Pro are going to be my default headphone going forward, whether I'm at home or traveling on the road. Now, as I mentioned, my full AirPods Pro review will be coming soon. Any questions you have about the AirPods Pro, leave them down in the comments below. I will meet you there for further discussion. Additionally, let me know, have you picked up the AirPods Pro? Do you use the original AirPods? And if you don't, let me know what you use for your music, for your podcasts, for your video watching, etc. If you want to hear even more on the AirPods Pro, be sure to subscribe to the Geared Up podcast. That's me and John Rettinger from the Techno Buffalo channel. Geared Up is our weekly look at the world of consumer electronics and gadgets. If you want to check it out, I will leave a link down in the description, as well as a card here at the end of this video. Until next time, thanks so much for watching, guys. As always, I appreciate your support. I'm Andrew Edwards, and I'll catch you in the next video.